G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. Now in the past I have made videos about women walking away from feminism. I think the case is they're walking away from, shall we call it fifth wave feminism? Now, they tell you officially it's just fourth wave feminism, but I think in the 60s fourth wave feminism produced a fifth wave that we're seeing in the 90s onwards. That is the narcissistic, toxic, social media drama queen. The Alicia Silverstones, the Sarah Silvermans. These are discount Jane Fondas. As you know, my opinion on Jane Fonda, she sold out. She wasn't a feminist. She was a sex toy, advertising herself to rich men. And as you see how she bounced around from rich man to rich man, ever increasingly plastic surgery to chase younger and younger men. But it's not PDF or behaviour. That's only when men do it, right? But ever increasingly, women have done what?
Every day for the past 30 years, you high-heeled pit bulls have blamed us for everything. From not being able to get into Harvard to not being able to get into stretch pants.
You've heard it. All men are trash, without exception. Toxic masculinity is destroying the world. The patriarchy oppresses us with every breath. I don't need a man for anything. 47 tweets, thousands of likes, comments pile up. You go queen, yay, slay queen, tell the truth, and period. Now, a lot of them are, of course, ignoring the fact that you'll see the same women post their OnlyFans link. Are those OnlyFans links? Come on, how many women really are linking, going to other women's OnlyFans, right? Come on, let's be realistic. We know who the majority, right, are. So I thought you didn't need no man, right? Here you are. But that's it, isn't it? It's all about appearances. But the thing is, the most miserable women blame men for all their problems. Accountability. Well, a lot of women are speaking their mind. And perhaps it might not be feminism they want, or the feminism we have now they want. Yes, they might still be lingering toxic feminism, but can we agree that if we can shift the Overton window back to the centre, after all, equal rights is equal rights, and we could settle the argument that maybe? I don't know. Let's see.
It's women that get on the internet and act like every single problem they have is attributed to a man. Most of the problems y'all have are because of yourself. I'm 300 pounds overweight. What does that have to do with him? I'm broke. What does that have to do with him? I feel like I can't be a mother to my children. What does that have to do with him? Everywhere I go in my life, I just don't have any peace. What does that have to do with him? When women get on board and start to realize that you're responsible for 100% of the decisions you make in your life, this sort of accountability will bring a level of peace that you have never even felt before. What most of y'all don't understand, when men see you, they see a giant ball of problems. When they see a woman who doesn't take accountability for anything in her life, all they see is that blame will get put on them eventually. And that's why they don't want to deal with you. And if they do sleep with you, they don't want to marry you and deal with you long term. You're welcome for the answers to your questions. So for me,
again, it might be just for her. But I think increasingly by the number of blogs that women are sick and tired of hearing the same old story. All men are trash until you need one. It's either for their OnlyFans or to fix your plumbing, right? And believe it or not, women, just like men, get backed up toilets too. Now, the same thing is, you don't need a man until you need one. And then you need him for everything. Right? You hear this, Denmark is hiring men to go round to women's places to do all the work they can't do, all the house chores, because they don't have a man to do it. They can't maintain their homes. Right? All these working women, mostly school teachers, government workers, they can't maintain their homes. Their homes are literally falling apart. Usually they're all divorced women looking for a hunky-chunky, to get their claws into, and the government's willing to win votes by providing these young men for women to harass or just ogle. But I know what you're thinking. It's feminism, right? It's just the way it is, stick to mgtow. Yeah, but still, I think if we could shift the over the window of society, we could start to get rid of some of the threats of the government ever increasingly deeping into our pockets, or we end up like Denmark, where men are forced to do day labouring jobs for women so the government can win elections. So there is a selfish reason as well. Maybe not so much for me, but I have a son. I don't want to see him become a government slave to these feminist whores. I want to see feminists lose. I'm sorry. I want to see them lose after making my life miserable, getting me fired, all the things. And I'm sure everybody's got a horror story about feminism. But one of the things is, there's a lack of accountability in society. Again, this is all to win votes. So before we blame everything on women, never forget the worst feminists are men. Bill Clinton. I mean, sexual predators. Same thing.
But most of the time, it is not men ruining relationships. It is women sabotaging themselves. But first, let me explain. First is the victim mindset. If every argument turns into poor me, look what you did to me, you're not resolving the conflict. You're dodging accountability. Second, attention addiction. If you need outside validation, likes, stares, DMs to feel secure, you'll never be happy with the man that you're with. Third, lack of self-worth. If you drag your unhealed trauma into a relationship but refuse to face it and deal with it, you're making your partner pay for damage that they did not cause. These aren't just little habits. They are relationship killers. They destroy trust, create resentment, and eventually push away the man or woman you claim to love. And the hard truth, a lot of women would rather blame men than admit that they're guilty of these patterns. So before you say men are the problem, ask yourself, am I sabotaging my own relationship? Try to ask yourself that. If you're brave enough to admit that, you will change everything. If not, you're going to repeat the same cycle. Drop your take in the comments.
The majority. Let's see. Arrogant in their 20s, delusional in their 30s, bitter in their 40s, alone in their 50s, forgotten in their 60s. Well, except for Hillary. What a shame, right? If only she... if only she went away, eh? Yeah, of course, the feminists. So again, it's a woman's fault. Are we hearing that right? Let's see. Everything she mentioned is a character thing. Unhinged people do unhealthy things. Unhealed people, I meant. No, I meant unhinged. Right.
Why do we see so...
Oops.
Ladies, this one's going to sting, but
Yes, you just described a lot of women. Right. Getting married. All right. God rest your soul. Okay, how many women how are women from past trauma? Stop dwelling on it. It goes away. Every thought is a process where you go, I had an emotion. I recognize that emotion. I know why I had that emotion. Now that it's over, I don't have to think about it again. Even if it goes, eventually your brain will learn not to keep feeding you useless signals that you're not going to deal with. If you're happy, just go, yay, I'm happy, something good happened. Don't announce it to the world. Just remember, the bird that chirps gets shit on. Okay? Everybody remember that story when you were young? Little bird chirps, everybody shits on him, and then it freezes, and then someone digs you out of that shit, and it's a cat, and it eats the bird. So remember, not everybody who shits on you is doing it for kicks and giggles. Not everybody who shits on you is doing it for giggles, but not everybody who digs you out of the shit is doing it because you're their friend. But remember, just because life shits on you doesn't mean, if the bird didn't chirp and complain about the cold, someone would have shit on them, right? But that shit warmed them up, and they chirped again, and then the cat ate it. So, the best thing is to keep your head down. And within our circles, within our friendship circles, we shit on each other with purpose. Often for comedic value, I accept that. But don't, and I'm trying not to do this too, don't think, right, that these are the majority of women. No, just be grateful that we're making an impact. Some women are taking notice, and we can shift over the window to get as many monkeys off our back as possible, because feminists are getting more and more desperate for attention, more and more desperate for more and more resources. They want taxes high. Look at New York. They want free food. They want free housing. They want free hygiene, free medical care. They want everything, and the high-paying jobs. Where's all that money going to come from? Someone has to be enslaved to provide their services. Remember, they're all about smash the patriarchy until it comes time to paying taxes. Then they want you to open doors, pay for dinner, kill the spiders, protect her on the dark streets, and of course, that is one of the things, right? We're not protecting women, but hey, equal rights, equal fights. It's what women hate. Accountability. But do they blame us all for past wounds? But how many of these past wounds are real? That's a question nobody is asking. We are finding so many women carrying these traumas, and where do they come from? TikTok videos.
Women causing frustration in their relationship when they start dating a man based on a wound that someone else did, not the man in front of them.
Because we've created a generation of narcissistic women. The rise of social media and the rise of online dating and the rise of feminism has taught women that they are not to blame for any poor choices. If you want to be a sex worker, it's great. If you want to post in bikini pictures online, it's fine. Every poor choice is glamorized, and every internal reflection is seen as gaslighting yourself. So they've even got terms for internal reflection to prevent it happening. They are trained to not reflect on themselves because we've been told we've been oppressed for so many years. Now it's time to make sure we project, so we don't take any accountability. And as a result, when we get into relationships, if we don't feel completely soothed all the time, he must be a narcissist. He must be a manipulator. He must be gaslighting. He, rather than I.
Why do we
see this in particular with not just the TikTok generation, but the OnlyFans generation, where everything is women's empowerment except hard work, right? Women get paid more as models. Women earn way more on OnlyFans than men. Now, who built the world we live in? Men. Who keeps the electricity on? Men. Who gets up at 3 a.m. when there's an emergency? Men. Women don't even work 9 to 5. They work 10 to 3. They have flexi time. They have government work where they cover for each other, sign each other in, sign each other out. They spend half their time tea room, socializing in the meeting rooms. They have daily meetings. They have daily briefings. They have end of day roundups. They have extended lunch hours. Most men don't take tea breaks, or they'll have a tea break, finish a cuppa and back to work, because they don't know if they stop stop moving, their joints, they're going to feel it, right? They're going to feel it at the end of the day anyway, but they're delaying the inevitable, but that's how we do it. Now, respect is a two-way street, but women are taught to not respect a man because they will walk over you. Remember, Imani fascists, the 30 reasons why men deserve nothing. Women are incentivizing and financing misandry at an incredible rate, which is why so many men out there do not believe that these handful of women are anything else but influence peddlers. Yeah, we have to accept that that's always the possibility. But if we, again, learn social media, okay, I tell you often, social media tips, right? You watch a mgtow video, like it. If you can't comment, nice job, great job, keep it up, encouragement. Yeah, you may think I'm a feminist for asking you to do that, but I ask you to do that because that is how social media works. If we cannot get on Rumble or YouTube at least 5 comments per video, YouTube is going to downgrade us. Okay, they're doing it now. There are plenty of videos out there warning us all that TikTok is taking over, that YouTube is increasingly desperate. Now, YouTube keeps telling us that we're number one, right? You keep seeing, we're not seeing the numbers. We're only seeing it for success for a handful. And again, 77% of the top 100 monetized people on YouTube are women. So, and again, we have the issue of botting and false viewerships, and so we have a lot to compete with. So you might understand, and I'm going to try to ask less of you to elevate my social media, but you've got to understand, if you truly believe in mgtow, I'm not teaching you to just elevate my videos. I'm teaching you how to elevate mgtow, because at 25% of the population, that's a good number if it was a single voting block in one country. But because we're spread around the world, and so many people in the world, their votes don't count, right? We have a long way to go. Okay? And I'm going to make as many videos as I can between now and then, right? Before Armageddon, because I pretty think we're going to be fighting this battle until Armageddon. When Jesus Christ looks around and says, "Oh my God, I thought I taught you not to be prostitutes." Well, Dad, set fire to the planet. It's done. We're cooked. So until that day, gentlemen, believe me, it's a fight worth fighting.
Dad taught me is to always be respectful to boys and never put them down. I've noticed this trend of girls blaming everything on guys in relationships, and I feel so alone in my feeling that it's often the other way around. I see how these girls are talking to these boys, and it's often so ugly and yucky, and I'm like, what has the world come to? So something that my dad taught me is...
Well, I'll tell you what the world's come to. Lack of find out, right? Men get punched in the face. Men get socially ostracized very quickly. I mean, I mean, instantly. I don't mean, like total shunning what women will do, and bullying that women will do. Men, right, they'll isolate you, leave you alone for a while. Some might come and talk to you. But men usually are more problem solvers than women. Women don't want problem solved. They want the emotions. They want the attention. So I think there is some fundamental breakdown that occurred between I would say from 1920 through to 1960, where every trauma, everything was gossiped to the point, right? You heard people, when telephones were coming out, people were picking it up and just talking, right? They'd talk to the operators, they would talk to each other, they would call 411 for conversations, or information services around the world. It's the same thing everywhere, right? They'd call the telephone exchange for a daily conversation. So all you had to do was pick up the phone. It cost you nothing. So soon, they started charging per calls to, try and keep down the number of calls down. Instead, their profits went through the roof. So they didn't so they stopped being bothered and started hiring more women. Now, get to the advent of social media, they took that from the exchanges down to the internet and put millions of women out of work. And guess who did that? Men. So there are men who are behind these problems. But if we take away the majority of women as instruments of the establishment, it starts to break down. Right? Because remember, the whole point of feminism is to turn women against the majority of men so that these Charlie horses could just have women swing the vine of these wonderful, businessmen, right, who abuse anybody and everything. Men, women, doesn't matter to them, right? Nothing. They feel nothing. They have nothing but contempt for society. They're bored. They're so used to winning, and they're so used to the government bailing them out. Again, if we destroyed the bailout system, imagine most of the half the banks would be gone. But would you miss them? So we are at odds with each other, right? Remember, the enemy so much is not feminism, it's the ideology of collectivism that is behind feminism. And we all know the little hats created communism to sell their ideology because they were in a weakened position after the bubonic plague that backfired on them, allegedly, and wiped out a third of them, allegedly. Right? And the bubonic plague didn't just affect Europe, it did affect the rest of the world. It's just the rest of the world doesn't record their history very well. Like, look how many countries record their wars. Not as detailed as the West. We study them, we plow over them, we figure out how we won, why, when, where, and how. Other countries, they want to distance themselves from every war they had because it's a blight on their society. But we have ignored the most fundamental war of them all, and that is the war on us by every other nation. Every other nation has invaded us at some point in the past. That's why. And now this liberal ideology who wants to kumbaya is just basically opening the door, just like Constantinople and every other collapsed civilization has before. When Rome went multicultural, it collapsed. When every civilization has reached its peak, right, when it thought it was the bestest ever and it opened its doors to everyone, boom, within a decade to a century, it's collapsed. Now, Rome took the longest, although some could argue it was Egypt collapsed in the 25th period with the Nubian invasion. But as we go through history, civilizations have lasted shorter. They've peaked faster. Now, the Chinese had a system of rebooting their civilizations. They started to expect collapses. They started to realize, because China's had the longest civil war, 1,600 years it had been at war with itself until 1957. 1958, the truce was broken by the Maoists, and then the last official revolution, I think, was the 1963, although that was the Cultural Revolution was a series of street battles and is not really well recorded. The Chinese don't want to admit, but I think they're in another civil unrest period now. And again, we'll see whether or not America can reboot civilization and rise again. Now, this is another problem, is that there are people who can only profit from the rise. Like, same with people who can only profit from the fall. You know, scavengers. Women are hunters and gatherers. By nature, they profit from the fall. They profit from when you reach success. That's why they want you at your success stage, because they want to plunder you as you decline. So we see the rise of civilization as the masculine and the fall of civilization as the feminine. This comes from the yin and the yang, that there are balances, things balance out, and things cycle. feminism isn't going to last. It's gone through cycles before. No ideology has lasted as long as Christianity. And again, there's a reason. Now, we're in a phase again of this false Christianity, this selective government passage of control, this need to control, again, that comes from the feminism. And you look how weak and insecure politicians are. Most of them, I'm not going to say left, right, Republican, Democrat, I'm saying around the world, most politicians remind me of women. So it's up to us to protect ourselves and shift the window to I believe gun rights and free speech. They are men's rights. They are the rights of man. There aren't many rights of man. And again, sometimes I fundamentally make mistakes on more, shall we say, nuanced things like warrants and other things that aren't part of my culture. So, to me, right, people who are disrespectful often get what they deserve, even if it is what you might consider abuse of power. And again, it's not up to the police to enforce their ideas of morality. If you're a police officer in Texas, you have to follow Texas law. But you can't, that's why cops often can't, because they're trained in one state, they go to another and find out that all the not only the procedures are different, but the social attitudes are different. So they don't last. So, at the end of the day, it's like feminism is trying to create this universal civilization. But I think if you look back, where was our peak? Rugged individualism, where a woman knew that once she got a man, everybody knew she had a man, nobody wanted her anymore. But there's also the other flip side, where in some cultures, women considered once they had a man, they didn't need many men, they didn't need another man. Once they've had a man, and they kept him alive for as long as they could, so that at the end of his life, he would willingly part everything to her, and then when she passed, everything went to the son, and that is how it's been for a lot of cultures, and it worked. But again, somewhere between the 1920s and the 1960s, a series of fundamental breakdowns, a failure to communicate, a failure to educate, and again, it seems to be artificial, right? And we can find a way to lift this monkey off our back, known as the establishment, which established itself above us, which is not what liberalism or its various offshoots, not even the Napoleonic Republic, right? It was all supposed to be equality. Thomas Paine and all these thinkers all across Western Europe were of the same mind at one point, right? But we also had this romantic age. And that is actually got nothing. Romance has got nothing to do with love. Romance is a set of practices from ancient Rome. Flowers, that's the Feast of Valentine. These are all artificially imposed on us, not originally Christian in nature, but they were sold to us as Christian practices when in fact they are not Christian practices, not even Catholic practices. They were imposed on the Catholic Church by outside influences, such as the flower shop, all the flower shops, all the jewelry stores, all the chocolatiers. They were all Jews, and they created these extra holidays to sell to install their goods and services. The same way when Jews came to America, they took over the fashion industry, they took over the media, they took over Hollywood, they took over the banks, they took over education, and they created themselves ever-increasing pay, but not for everyone else. Now, the only way that can work is we have corrupt people amongst us, right? Simps who want these women, who want these women to be whores. So we have to try and reconcile the beliefs before we can move forward. And I'm hoping with these videos we can, so that mgtow achieves